You talking away.
Okay.
All right, welcome. Tonight we have one public hearing, which will then be followed by the regular plan commission meeting. So during the public hearing, you'll be invited to come up to speak. When you speak, we're going to ask, there's a lot of people here tonight. So 10-minute speeches is going to put us about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So we ask that you be concise and direct with your comments. If somebody already said what you wanted to say, maybe just come up and say, hey, I agree with such and such. We all want to respect what you have to say. We do. We just don't want to be here all night long. So if you would keep them as concise as possible, that would be appreciated. All right. We'll open up the meeting then at 6:35. Roll call, please.
President Osterman,
Here.
trustee Plotecker,
Here.
trustee Quinn,
Here.
Commissioner Alhaffen,
Here.
Commissioner Mouche is absent and excused, Commissioner Everly,
Here.
Commissioner Howard,
Here.
Commissioner McCormick,
Here.
Planner Sumwalt,
Here.
Attorney Macy,
Here.
Engineer Lysis is present and in the audience, Administrator Nicholas,
Here.
and Clerk Elisa Capazzo Catch to record the minutes.
Thank you. Notice was given that a joint public hearing would be held by the Lisbon Village Board and Plan Commission on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, starting at 6:30 p.m. at the Richard Young Memorial Fire Station, North 54 West 26455 Lisbon Road, to solicit public comments on a request by applicant Joe Bukovich, MLG Capital, on behalf of owner Terry Getz, Condon Properties LLP, to rezone the vacant parcel located along Mary Hill Road and known as tax key LSBT 0255.998 from A10 agricultural zoning district to R1 suburban single family residential zoning district. John?
Yes, I need to remind the plan commission members that the public hearing is on the issue of the rezoning. And although the public, it is a public hearing and the public has the right to say whatever they think is pertinent to that, you can only consider that information that is relevant to the rezoning. In some respects, the developers in a catch-22, if they don't submit a concept plan, they're punished because it's considered speculative zoning. And if they do submit a concept plan, then everybody talks about the concept plan instead of the issue of whether or not the property should be rezoned. So I just need to remind you that any discussion you have, any comments that you make, to deal with the issue of rezoning and not with the issue of the concept plan. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but I just wanted to remind the commission and the village board of that fact. Thank you.
Orin or the applicant, I don't know who wants to start this out.
The applicant is present, so I'll invite them to come up and go ahead and speak. Property owner is also present
On Zoom.
on Zoom.
Joe,
I think I've got it on.
perfect.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joe Bukovich. I'm with MLG Capital. And I'm joined tonight by Josh Budelko from Trio Engineering, who's our lead engineer on the project. We're here tonight to request rezoning of the 59-acre Condon property located on the southeast corner of the intersections of Mary Hill and Walnut Roads. Taking into account Attorney Macy's comments, I will talk a little bit about the development plan and the concept plan, just so it's site specific. We submitted a revised development plan along with the rezoning request, which shows the neighborhood is designed per the R1 residential zoning district requirements. And the proposed development contains 40 1-acre minimum size lots served by private well and septic. And there's a little more than 7 acres of open space that is being maintained. The new home sites will be located along one curvilinear road with 3 cul-de-sacs. There'll be new road connections, one to Mary Hill, one to Walnut Road. And there are 2 temporary cul-de-sacs in Partridge Hills that will be removed, and those roads will be extended and connected into the development. The biggest change to the plan is the proposed extension of Fox Hollow Drive that was discussed at the last meeting. This extension will further diversify the circulation and it will help reduce traffic concentrations in the area. I would also like to bring up our engineer Josh here to talk a little bit about the stormwater and the grading on the site.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you again. And thank you, Joe. Josh Podelko, Trio Engineering. This has been a unique property to explore a development on. It has unique topography, elevations, soil conditions, all and connections and relationships to different neighbors. And we spent a lot of time, went through a lot of different iterations to develop a plan that wasn't intended to just max out the use, but really to put home sites where the topography, the views, the soils, the elevations all dictate. And in doing that, it becomes a little bit more organic, a little natural. It fits better into the land and it respects every development requirement that Lisbon has, but also the neighbors that surround it, and really what the land wants to be. You'll see if you look closely at our plan that a lot of the homes are going to have a potential for some sort of exposure, and that's done intentionally. We have kind of a bowl and different depressions and rolls to this property, and we artistically really set these homes on some of the higher ridges so their backyards could take advantage of some of that topography. And we also very intentionally studied the septic suitability and really what the land should have and can have and support. And that really through an iterative process is how we developed a plan for 40 lots, all meeting the R1 zoning, different than maybe what you've seen in other developments in Lisbon. This is going to be, I think, a very beautiful, kind of quiet, tucked in community in this area. Stormwater wise, we do have a note up here, but we have calced it. We account for offsite water that does come from the west side of Mary Hill Road. We've provided an abundance of stormwater areas really to watch both peak flow control and volume control. And you'll see if you look real close, we identified all of the different discharge routes from this property today and post-development. And as we bring development plans forward, we're going to work with the village and the engineer to ensure that the rates, the volumes are all respectful to the neighbors and the surrounding neighborhood. So I do have additional information should we ever get into it, but as Attorney Macy had said, that may be a discussion where we hear feedback and kind of bring more back at a later date.
All right, thank you, Josh. The rezoning petition and the design of the neighborhood that's being presented tonight meets all the requirements of the village's comprehensive plan. Therefore, we're respectfully requesting that the Plan Commission recommend approval of the rezoning to the village board. So thank you for your time and consideration this evening, and we'll be back later to answer questions. Thank you.
I guess I'll just reiterate that the property is currently zoned A10 agriculture. The proposed zoning is R1 suburban single family residential. The future land use from the comprehensive master plan is low density residential, which allows 20,000 square foot to 1.49 acres per dwelling unit. There's also some lands planned as other open lands to be preserved. That designation is a restriction that requires there to be some type of follow-up, whether it be for soils or some other limitation on the site. In this case, it's the soils, and the petitioner has indicated that they've studied those. The things that need to be looked at are, can the site support septic systems and basements due to the depth of groundwater? And those are two things that are being studied. That's all I had to add.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission or the board?
None.
All right, at this time we'll open up for public comment. If anyone wants to step up to the mic, state your name and address, please. Even if we have a comment card, please state your name and address. Try to limit your comments to be concise. Who would like to go first?
Chris Fogel. Address is W256 N5806 North Hill Drive. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you. I just want to say that on my comment card, I did mark as undecided. The reason I put that is because I want to be clear, I don't oppose development of Lisbon. I hate the idea of thinking that 40+ years ago, when my family moved here, someone would have told them they couldn't move here. But what I would ask that this committee considers is all that should be considered as we think about development in this piece of land and any piece of land in Lisbon. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot about it tonight, but what consideration has been given to the idea of the additional traffic, the impact of the water levels to the adjacent neighborhoods. And then in addition to that, I guess I would like some clarification on the connection. In the previous meeting, they said that they were going to connect to Erie. And the point of that connection was that they looked at how many houses they would impact through that connection, which there's only 2 on Erie. And so they didn't want to impact that many houses. But now we're going to connect both on Erie and Fox Howell. So now we're going to go from 2 houses to 7 houses, which seems like a bit of a contradiction. So I was hoping that maybe the developer could explain why they decided that, or is that something that the town pushed for? That's it. Thank you.
Like to go next? Bill? See you, Bill.
My name is Bill Swift. I'm on North 56 West 26184 Richmond Road. And the thing that I'm most concerned about is the traffic situation that's going to imperil this whole area. Right now we've got a small amount of buses coming through. Now, you get all of this, we were going to have a whole lot of buses coming either from Richmond Road or Mary Hill. And I'd like, there's all kinds of construction down there in Sussex, and these trucks are driving right straight through, and this is supposed to be a 6,000-pound vehicle. And I just wondered, how we're going to control this traffic. You have any suggestions off the top?
We won't comment. We just write down and then we close the public hearing, the applicant will be allowed to make comments.
Okay, but it's going to be a whole lot more traffic on Richmond Road, and it's a 2-lane. Mary Hill is a 2-lane. And that's nothing but hills. How much serious traffic are we going to have, and accidents that are going to happen there? I can't say for sure, but there will be. So, thank you.
Like to go next?
I did not fill out a comment card because I was not aware I would come up and speak. My name is Doug Barch. I live at N58 W25620 Fox Hollow Drive. I've lived there almost 20 years. Again, I also realize that, as cities move out and expand, this area is going to get developed. That's not going to stop. My concern is that what is beyond this area to the west of us, when we have another whole open field to the east of us, what considerations for some of these roads going through are going to impact when that area is developed. And then also, when there was a reference made to the fact that the only thing that this hearing is about is rezoning to R1, and what they're presenting is purely conceptual, that when they actually get to doing whatever it is they're doing, that has to get approved. And what is presenting today, my understanding, has nothing to do with what will happen in the future, where they're saying there's 40 homes. So my concerns are there with, what's actually going to happen. And then also when I look at our subdivision, what is going to happen to the east of us, the fields, and how are you thinking about that when you're looking at approving this? And again, my assumption is it's going to, whether it's now or in the future, it is going to get rezoned. But what actual plan you complete, how much are you taking account into that field to the east of Partridge Hills?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Keith Kunkel. I live at W257 N5649 North Hill Drive. We're just inside of the Partridge Hill subdivision. With the number of houses that are in there now, we have many days where cars are not obeying what I would think be a speed limit. There are no speed limit signs posted. There used to be one that was 25 miles an hour. To give you an example,
Just to be clear, you're talking in the subdivision or on the road?
in the subdivision, on North Hill Drive specifically. Richmond Road is another matter. Okay, so what I was gonna say is, at one point in time, we had a neighbor who lived on top of the hill that actually parked a vehicle outside on the shoulder to slow people down. This is something that is not being enforced and people are not adhering to it if they understood what the speed limits are. Richmond Road is the same thing. With the way that road is constructed right now, there is no shoulder in a lot of places. I'm a runner, I'm on that road a lot. I've had to jump into the ditch a couple of times because of how cars were driving. And they weren't necessarily going the speed limit, even though it is posted. I understand the change and putting residential there, but the volume of traffic, I don't think Richmond Road is designed to handle that. I'm not an engineer, just looking at how it is built. And especially with, you got heavy trucks coming through, you got gravel, school buses and so forth. So that is my concern, is the trafficability. And especially inside our subdivision now, we have a lot of young families with kids who are riding bikes out on the streets, going for walks and so forth. If we have increased traffic, what is the danger to them? So, thank you.
Take one more comment and we'll close it for a little bit to allow some questions to be answered. You just don't have a huge list and then have to come back and do it all at once. So one more comment, we'll close it and then answer some questions and then we'll reopen it again after that.
Good evening. My name is Albert Quast. I am at W257 and 5689 North Hill Drive.
Carrie Carpenter, W260 and 5913 Mary Hill Road.
We've provided a petition that we've had several people in the subdivision sign. So that has been given. So we have a statement right here. If give me just a minute, I'll go through it. So we have a petition requesting the board to deny the rezoning request for the reasons listed below, and for anything that is expressed here today. Future land use plan of Town of Lisbon, 2035 exhibit B. Nearly 50% of the proposed site is marked as open lands to be preserved. By definition, preserved by definition means maintained in its original existing state. Existing state is agricultural, not residential. The current number of residences on Mary Hill is 21, and the current number on Walnut Road is 16. This subdivision alone will more than double the number of existing residents. Vista Run on Mary Hill and Silver Spring VV connects 236 residences to Mary Hill. Alpine Hills on Mary Hill, just north of Osbrook, adds another 28 residents. And in this proposal is for another 40 residences. All combined, this represents an 822% increase in the number of residences. That's 236 plus 28 plus 40 equals 304 new, 37 existing, so 341 total. Traffic will increase by more than 822% due to the due to delivery vehicles, visitors, and other surrounding new developments such as Redford Hills. Osbrook Ski Hill has a current waiting list in excess of 300 and future plans to develop the western area, creating a further burden on the existing roads. Richmond Road and Mary Hill are ill-equipped to handle the increase in this type of traffic. With an 822% increase in residences, groundwater is a major concern for our subdivision. According to the comprehensive plan survey, Lisbon has grown 122%, which is nearly twice Waukesha County's growth rate of 76. Lisbon comprehensive plan estimates a population of 10,770 by 2035. Lisbon exceeds that population 15 years ahead of schedule. The majority of residents said the quality of life has declined in the last 5 to 10 years, with the amount of development, roads, and traffic being the primary reasons. 40% of residents feel that the overall road network is inadequate to meet future growth needs. The three resources that residences value most for protection are air quality, groundwater, and agricultural land. 76% of those surveyed were in favor of programs for the local government to purchase development rights to permanently stop development on agricultural land and open spaces. When asked what the 5 most important reasons for choosing where to live here, the #1 response was the rural atmosphere. When developing new areas, 70% said they would prefer to cluster design, permanently preserving open space rather than traditional subdivisions that the design is currently proposing. So our questions are, at the initial hearing, the request was placed on hold to allow for joint traffic assessments between Sussex and Lisbon, taking into account all the development in the area to ensure that Richmond Road, Mary Hill, and the surrounding infrastructure could support the additional traffic needs. Was that completed? And if so, what was the outcome? Next question is, why are we allowing land that is designated as preserved to be considered for residential development? Third question is, why are we considering traditional subdivision designs rather than the cluster designs preferred by 70% of those surveyed? With the majority of residents expressing that their quality of life has declined primarily due to the amount of development and traffic, why are we continuing to build at a pace that is double the rate of Waukesha County? The three county resources that residents value most for protection are air quality, groundwater, and agricultural land. How are we ensuring the protection of these resources with an 822% increase in residences? And how will existing residences be compensated for any additional cost incurred to ensure adequate water supplies? There is an increasing trend and desire for locally sourced and organic foods. If we do not preserve our agricultural land, how will we fulfill the need for our community? For three consecutive months, this proposal has been on the agenda. What assurances can this board provide that will preserve this land and not permit a residential subdivision to be developed at this parcel?
And I would add what others have already said. We are not,
Speak into the mic, please. People on Zoom won't be able to hear you
sure,
otherwise.
we are not against development. We are against a development of this size and this density in conjunction with all of the other development in the surrounding area in regards to traffic concerns, water quality, the preservation of the quality of life, and all of the other reasons that have been stated. So if somebody wanted to develop this land, we're not saying no, but a residential subdivision of this size and this dense is too much. The area cannot support it. Additional requests would be for walking paths for the reasons that the other gentleman just said, and for larger lot sizes, preferably 3 to 5 acres apiece, if this land is going to be dezoned. But again, I would question the preservation piece of this. Preservation means it remains the same, not we'll change it based on different factors and things. So again, please consider what everyone is saying and the people that have elected you and their wishes and desires. Thank you.
And, you know, and just to follow up that, with that traffic concern of connecting, right? The engineer had spoke, you know, that it's gonna be a nice, quiet little community that they're gonna be building, you know. Partridge Hills is already quite nice, quiet little community. And, you know, that exists already. If we connect the roads for the new subdivision, we're not gonna have that quiet community anymore because everybody's gonna be taking the shortcut and coming through our subdivision to get to their residences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Close this portion, not close, but just postpone this portion. Did you get a list of the questions? I could not write them down as fast as they were being read. Well, if the applicant wants to come on up and address some of these questions. We were writing them down here, so I'm assuming you were also.
As much as I can with my fingers sweating.
So I would say the number one question everybody's asking is traffic.
All right.
Obviously, this is a rezone, but it's,
Yeah, so for traffic, Waukesha County requires a traffic study when there's neighborhoods proposed with 100 lots or more, and we don't fall into that. We did a little bit more research on what's happening on Mary Hill and Richmond. And according to the Wisconsin DOT's traffic counts from 2022, Mary Hill Road has an annual average daily traffic count of 350 cars based on the DOT counts. The AADT is the transportation industry's its most essential metric for analyzing and forecasting traffic volumes. And what they say is an AADT of less than 400 is still considered a low volume road. So the result of that is that road is not unsafe from the vehicle standpoint. Based on a 40 lot development and extrapolating it from other projects that we've worked on, the peak hourly traffic generated by the site will be 20 to 25 cars. That's the peak hour, and that will not materially affect the level of service for the intersections, the public intersections. That's coming right from a traffic study that's been extrapolated. Richmond Road has 1,500 cars per day west of Mary Hill and 1,300 cars east, just to give you an idea of the traffic, that information that we had found.
you're not, you can write questions down, you can ask them later, but right now, so at this point, it's between us and them. On Richmond Road, do you know what the volume?
It was 1,500 cars per day
Sure, but do you know
west of Mary Hill.
what the rating is for a good road?
I didn't look into that. I was more concerned about the roads around the neighborhood.
Did you give us this, we have a copy of that?
I don't have a copy of it. I have a picture of it here for you if you wanted to, and it's on the Wisconsin DOT website to look at under traffic counts.
Could take a look at it.
And those traffic volumes are well within the capacity of a 2-lane road. I think you could probably concur.
The connection of Fox Hollow Drive. That was something that we requested to consider at the last plan commission meeting, extending that through. There was a temporary cul-de-sac that was created there many years ago when Partridge Hills was developed. And it was always considered to go through. And having one more access to the proposed October Fields will give people we'll diversify the traffic. We'll give people more options and they won't be going to one or two spots. It'll just give them one more option to help reduce any congestion at some of the intersections. So that was consideration that we were asked that we accepted.
Water was another question.
Groundwater from in terms of wells or recharge or all the above. The one thing I know about that is Sewer Pack had done a study and they concluded that individual private wells will not impact surrounding neighbors.
Everybody in the audience is gonna need to stay quiet while he's talking. The applicant has given everyone respect. I would expect the same respect to be returned to them. You will have your chance to speak when we open it up again.
So that's from a Sewer Pack study, which is a respected planning agency in the area.
Connection of traffic, talk about that, water levels. One for, I guess, Orin, you might be the better one to answer this. Why are we allowing land as designated as land to be preserved to be considered for residential development? It says land designated as preserved, it's the land to be. You kind of explained it a little bit before, but if you could go into depth of that a little more, just so everybody understands what that means.
Sharing my screen again, I brought up the land use plan from the comprehensive master plan. So there's a note on the land use plan that says areas designated as other open lands to be preserved found not to be encumbered by wetlands, floodplains, or soil constraints through updated data may be considered under the adjacent land use plan category or categories. So on the screen there, you can see Mary Hill and Richmond Roads identified. Our property is in the center there. The other open lands to be preserved would be the white polygon with green cross hatching. And the reason it has such a funky shape is that it is following likely a soil type layer that has constraints. And so throughout the village where you find these areas that are planned for that, there's some kind of limiting factor, whether it be wetland, whether it be floodplain, or whether it be soil limitations. In this case, it's likely soil limitations. There was a delineation done by a professional wetland, an assured wetland delineator. There's no wetlands on the site. There's no adjacent waterways for there to be any associated floodplain. And this property is, at a high point in the area as well. So that this is certainly due to the soil in the area, specifically whatever horizon has those limitations, which follows the boundary of that polygon with the white and green cross hatching. So a lot of times, based on the predominant soils in the area, the limitations are on basements, and or it could be limitations on something like a septic system, which I spoke to earlier. So the petitioner will have to, as part of a future proposal, should this move forward for a plat, provide soil data. And they obviously have professional staff on hand who can do that type of work. And if that data proves that basements could be developed that that are high enough above the average groundwater level, and that septic systems can be supported that the county would permit, then a project could move forward. So the adjacent land use in this case is the low density residential. And so that could apply to those areas should they prove that the soil limitations can be overcome.
So the lands to be preserved can adopt basically the zoning that's next to it.
It can be used as the adjacent land use, which would be the low density, if you can prove that those limitations can be overcome.
And if it doesn't perk for a septic system, they're just a septic or mound at that point, there just won't be anything allowed there.
Right.
So but that's on the county end.
The county has the permitting authority for those types of systems, yes.
Just if I may add a little bit to that, we have done at the conceptual stage what would be considered extensive soil testing out there already. We do have 8 tests for groundwater, which we're able to set and kind of figure out generally where the groundwater is for each of the homes. And our grading plan has been looked at based on those. And then we've done 50 perk tests or so. We're concerned about the area on the north and on the east side of the property. And we were able to find 8+4 mound systems for all those areas. We still have more to finish that up. We will be doing obviously more groundwater testing for basements to get the Form As finished, so we know exactly where that's at. But we have a decent idea what it's doing, and then we'll also be finishing up the rest of the perk testing for the systems.
There was a question on here, why are we considering traditional subdivision designs rather than the cluster designs preferred by 70% of those surveyed? I'm just gonna chime in a little bit on this. I can tell you when Lisbon has done these cluster designs, everybody seems to want the other one. Cluster design subdivisions are typically lots less than, like for this would be a lot less than 1 acre, but then there's open lands to be preserved. There's lands that are kept for like a park or open lands. And we did one of these over on Lake 5 in Silver Spring, and I will say it wasn't well liked in the conceptual stage. It turned out very nice, but it was not well liked right off the bat. I gotta tell you, I was beat up of why would we even consider this? So it's a little ironic to see that here. I totally understand it, and I actually think they're very nice, but I just want to throw that in there. It seems to be, no matter what we do, people want the other one, but I don't know if you want to chime in on why you're considering the 1 acre, this style of rather than a cluster development.
It's really to fit into the surrounding area. There's not any clusters immediately adjacent to this. Partridge Hills has, it's a higher density development. I think they're 2/3 acre minimums and we're at 1 acre minimums. So it's just trying to fit into the area.
Typically, a cluster subdivision would also, if there was a lot of trees or
An
features in
environmental
land
feature that
you'd
would want to
preserve,
protect or
where this does
preserve,
not
correct?
necessarily have that here.
Correct.
I think there's areas in the town, the village now, there's a quarter, that really could use subdivisions like this, but this one, just looking at it, doesn't look like it would really fit the bill for that.
Correct.
Question here about basically the farmland. Increasing trend and desire for locally sourced and organic foods if we do not preserve our agricultural land. How will we fulfill this need for a community? I think all of us would probably like to see a lot of farm fields stay around. Problem is we're running out of farmers. And I'm gonna just, from my own personal opinion, our tax code isn't set up to support farmers, and it's not Lisbon's tax code, it's the national tax code. If somebody doesn't farm their land anymore, they are taxed extraordinarily high and they're almost forced into doing this. This is a change the law, don't go after the people using it kind of thing, in my opinion. But it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. You're gonna see a lot more of it around here as farmers get older and kids want to play video games instead of farm. Farmville is not real farming, so.
The village engineer had a question about stormwater to the east.
Well, one of the property owners asked about, or was concerned about stormwater to the east. So if you could just address maybe the peak discharges and stuff like that and what we're required to follow for ordinance.
Yeah, we're required to reduce peak flows, and we also need to report and identify peak volumes, and we need to develop land to change the character of the cover. For this project, you see a very large kind of central stormwater area. That area ultimately discharges via an outlet pipe back to the Fox Hollow Drive ditch, where right now there's a drain tile, I believe, from this property that discharges there right now. So really we're using that as kind of our limiting factor and staying less than what the drain tile could send there today. That's what this development would discharge to that eastern discharge point when developed. So it's going really actually above and beyond of what would be required in code in doing that.
On the east
parcel
Yeah, if I
in
could,
Sussex?
if I could comment on that, I have up on the screen, the area via our GIS map from the county. And you can see the municipal boundary line, where the colors end, and, you can just see the aerial photo underneath is the village of Sussex. And so the open lands, the undeveloped lands to the east are in a different municipality.
So Sussex is obviously gonna be developing that. Sussex will be developing on sewer and water, just to, everybody knows as far as the water and sewer end of it. The wells should not be affected by them because they will be on sewer and water. One question here was the conceptual compared to what it could be at the end. It's a legitimate question. They're bringing together a proposal that's 1.55 acres, 1.55 dwelling per acre, was that correct? Or 1.55 acre per dwelling, excuse me. They could go down with this zoning, they could come back with a proposal that was 1 acre, 1 dwelling per acre, they could. I don't know that I've ever seen it as long as I've been here, but yeah, they could. That's why you need to pay attention to the agendas and watch. I would be very surprised if you did that, but yeah, it is their right. So that is a legitimate question. They could not go below that unless they were doing a cluster subdivision, but then the density would still have to be the same. It's just the lots could be smaller at that point.
If I may, what you see on the development concept plan is what we're proposing. We put a lot of work and effort into designing where the houses are gonna be going, testing where the mound systems are going. So what you see in the concept plan is basically what we are gonna be moving forward with.
Questions that I miss? Yep. Staff? Questions from the commission at this time? We're gonna wait for some more.
I had a question. When you were talking about the traffic counts, based on the DOTs or the organizations, and that Mary Hill is under that, just under that count currently. Do those traffic counts, do that traffic count standard take into account the type of road? Mary Hill is very hilly. It's very narrow. It has no shoulders. Versus a road that would be like Highway 164, or a road that's got not wooded, more level, with shoulders.
The traffic counts are just that. They count the number of cars that pass by every day is what it is. Then you have to analyze those to see safety wise how those roads perform. But the 400 count level, we're at Mary Hill's at 350, and the rural road status is 400. So you're just drawing a conclusion that it's fairly light traffic. We understand that any change in neighborhood, there's gonna be more traffic. It's gonna appear like a lot of bad things are happening. But from a number standpoint, it's not increasing the traffic tremendously, and on a road that has capacity still.
The numbers on paper say that. Mary Hill, again, hilly, wooded, narrow, snow covered and icy a lot of the time in the winter because you have a ski hill that manufactures snow and it does blow to the east and covers Mary Hill on a hill. So you're adding, I think that's what some of these people are concerned about, is it's a unique road. And Richmond Road, even though it's level, more leveler, it's still very wooded and narrow. And I think that's why I'm asking, do these counts take into account the types of roads? Because these might be a little bit more unique type roads.
Sure, it takes it's just strictly a count. Know how many cars are going on in a day.
My other question was, you said 40 homes, you anticipate to produce 20 cars during peak time. How did you come up with that number?
There was another traffic study that we had done out in Dousman, and that's 142 lots. So it was just a proportional relationship to how many are generated. So divide the number of cars by 142 and then multiply it by 40 to get the peak hour. It's a 1 hour segment, 20 to 25 cars, 20 in the morning, 25 in the afternoon. There's 2 peak hours. And that's how it was derived from, traffic study that's been approved by the
So basically,
DOT.
under the assumption only one person in the household works then.
No, there's codes and it's set up for determining single-family residential, how many trips are done per day, and they go through a lot of analysis of those.
Peak travel hours, 25
the
cars, not that
peak.
there'll only be 25 cars, period. There could be 100 cars, but the most it would be 25 in 1 hour. is what
But
it-
usually your
Correct.
peak time is leaving for work in the morning and coming home, and I'm just saying most households don't have just one person employed these days. And if most households have more than one car.
I just want to make sure everybody understood it wasn't that it was only going to be.
Oh, no, I meant
20
peak
That
time.
many cars.
Yeah, I meant during peak time.
Okay. Paula, Sean? Okay, were there any other questions in this first round that I missed that anybody?
So we had someone mention about a stop sign on their road, stating the sign and that there's speeders on that road. I'll bring that up in our Public Works Committee about getting a sign out there.
And Keith had commented about the speed limit not being followed in the subdivision. That'll be an enforcement issue. I'm not sure where you're sitting, but that's something we need to work on with enforcement issues, because that definitely needs to be looked at. We are limited in the number of officers we have, but we have a speed trailer and some other things we can get out there and try to figure that out. Shoulders not present on the road. That is a concern in a lot of Lisbon. And a lot of areas that were rural at one time. Yeah, that's those. Anything else you can?
I just received our population increase from 2022. It's 4%. So we still don't even get to 10,800. We're still under the 10,750.
And it's no doubt Lisbon is seeing its biggest growth spurt in many, many years. And Sussex had it for a while and they're still having it. And now we're in the middle of it also. So people are definitely moving out to this area. So at this time, we'll open up for more comments. Please step on up. And what I want to do is, if there's anybody that hasn't spoken yet, to allow you to come up, you will most definitely be able to speak. But is there anybody who hasn't spoken yet that wishes to speak before we take anyone else? Okay, come on up.
A few short comments.
Sure.
For the developer, when he's stating studies. Doug Barch, Fox Hollow Drive, when the developer is stating studies, to make sure he's giving dates on everything. For the traffic study on Mary Hill, he said it was a 2022 study. He did not state any dates for the Richmond Road. He did not state any dates for the water levels or anything like that. So if he's doing any studies and presenting information, he needs to give dates on when those things were done. Also made comment regarding the drain tiles that was put in to drain more into the Fox Hollow Drive. There's other people in the subdivision who've lived there longer than I have, but I believe that drain tile was put in within the last 20 years. And the volume of discharge over the last 20 years has drastically increased. When there's heavy snow, that water that runs through is a small, fast-running creek. It's not slight. So I think you need to look at longer term as far as how much water has been discharged down Fox Hollow. Whatever the farmer did at some point in time, putting in that drain tile, make that 20 times worse, not only with water, but whatever he was spreading on the fields, to the point where it literally stinks in some springs. So I would have them look further back on the amount of discharge.
What was your name again?
Doug Barch.
Thank you. Go next.
My name's Tom Carroll, West 255, North 5664, Rendale Court. Thank you for the forum. We're all here because we're nervous and rightfully so. And we're concerned, and rightfully so. And quite frankly, we're scared, and rightfully so, of how this rezoning, then the development is going to impact our properties and our lives, period. I appreciate the professionals being here, but quite frankly, I'm hearing a lot of baloney. Cite all the studies that you want. We're still going to be impacted. And you can't tell me that these studies are absolute enough that we can make the decisions on. Oh, study says suitability. Oh, study says 24 cars. Baloney. I know I've had personal experience with how the DOT operates, and I wouldn't believe any of their statistics or anything that comes from that organization. When you leave Partridge Hills subdivision, you come down North Hill Drive, you turn left or you turn right. If you turn left, you go down Richmond Road, approximately a mile, very narrow, very hilly, very wooded, no shoulders, raccoons, deers, everything, runners. Put raccoons before you, Keith, I'm sorry. And so to jockey with that a little bit, it ain't gonna work if you live there. I appreciate the studies. Okay. I appreciate the studies, but they're meaningless. When they were doing work on Highway 164, I'm guessing 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And some days when they were working, they would close access to Highway 164. So you come out of the subdivision, you turn left, probably the way most of us go, left, get to 164, and you get to 164 and they say road closed. So now what do? This is in the morning. We're all going to work. There's a line of cars. You got to turn around Richmond Road, barely enough room to do so, and go back the other way. And then you get up tomorrow and you turn left and the road's open. And then you get up Wednesday and you turn left and the road's closed. And so I would call the DOT and I would say, when we come out of North Hill Drive on Richmond Road, just put a sign there that says road closed at 164. Then we know not to drive a mile down there to find out that's what is closed. They wouldn't agree to do that. I called them every day asking for a sign. They wouldn't agree to do that. You talk about 24 cars at peak period, baloney. That little incident caused enough disruption that people were late to work, late to childcare, late to medical appointments, to doctor's appointments, and there wasn't even a new subdivision there. And so the baloney that I hear is, well, we're going to extend that road on Fox Hollow to relieve the congestion that we've caused. So relieving congestion means you've created congestion. So relieving the congestion is not a solution to the problem that we're trying to prevent. Is we don't want more congestion. We don't want more traffic. And you can't tell me your suitability studies. You don't know how those septic systems are going to respond. You don't know how the wells are going to be impacted. There's a lot of variables, a million variables that, and like your study with the car cop, it's just a very rudimentary study that means nothing. Because the road conditions weren't taken into consideration. So why do you bring that here as a justification for a development that you're motivated to move forward, you're money motivated to move forward, and I haven't heard one thing how we benefit from this. What is the upside? How do we gain? How are we protected? What are the guarantees and when does it all stop? We have Partridge Hills, very, very small subdivision. So when you make little changes, there's going to be big impact. And this isn't a little change. We have safe, quiet roads that kids play on. Partridge Hill, a lot of dogs. There, it's, I don't mean, you could even call it a senior citizen community. You know, we all walk, and you're going to change these nice, slow roads with no shoulders to thoroughfares that relieve congestion that we don't have now. The wonderful topography of the development, the septic suitability. What does that mean? The ease of traffic flow by increasing the thoroughfares did not address the impact to us. When the YMCA was built in Menominee Falls, and I had friends that lived in that area, and they had all the assurances from the developers and the engineers and everybody, the plan commission is all approved that some of their backyards collapsed because of the impact of where the water went. Not hear anything about that. Traffic won't be controlled. There's some reference about controlling traffic. Traffic won't be controlled. And I just get really irritated when the motivation and the justification is based on studies, not reality. And the reality is here, approving the rezoning and then eventually the redevelopment is going to suck for all of us in that subdivision. Thank you. Appreciate your hearing my comments. Thank you.
Do you need me to state my name and all that again?
Just your name.
Keith Kunkel. I question on the trafficability studies that have been done, Richmond Road. That has become a thoroughfare going from 164 west to Heartland and beyond. As I said, I'm a runner, I'm out on that road, and depending on the time of day, I can have 25 to 30 cars in an 8-minute period while I'm running down the road when I was faster. But even at a slower pace, to have 10, 15 cars in a 10-minute period, there is nothing. And that's just one way, and that's one 10-minute period. That's not at peak time. It isn't just the people who live in that area that are using that road. A lot of them are coming from the west on K, whether it's from Heartland or points between there and K, and coming across. There's also a lot of people that come up County Trunk K, turn on High Road and come east. That is a very busy road. It's gotten a lot busier in the last, well, we've been there since '88. In my mind, the volume of traffic that has more than doubled on a regular basis. So I disagree with the volume counts. Thank you.
Robert Carpenter, West 260, North 5913, Mary Hill.
Traffic counts as of 2022 do not take into consideration the additional traffic resulting from Vista Run, Alpine Hills, or the expansion of Oswego Ski Hill. The rural capacity of 400 will be exceeded when they are developed. 350 current traffic count plus 304 new homes exceeds 400 easily. And if the developer is so certain that the wells and the groundwater will not be impacted, then they should be willing to provide a guarantee in writing to all the residents. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to?
Mary Fallon, N56 W26106 Richmond Road. Orin, would you mind putting up the map you had of the land use, the yellow and whatever? So I know most of you live to the east and you're concerned about the eastern discharge. I am to the west. That is my property on the corner of Mary Hill and Richmond
Stormwater?
Road. Pardon me?
The stormwater discharge?
Yeah, so I wanted, I just saw a map, which I hadn't seen until tonight, that there's some sort of. So I believe there is already a discharge outlet which comes onto my property. So the village has made my proper, that big section through the middle of mine in conservancy from the drainage from that particular area they want to develop. So my concern is, how's it going to impact me and my property? Right now, it is being farmed, but if the volume of water increases, there's not a designated waterway. It just kind of spills and takes its own path, which changes through the years. And my property was designated by Orin for 3 houses. I am the rural that they want to keep in the area, which I don't understand personally why that is. So I would have subdivisions on 3 sides of my property, but I'm rural and I have the conservancy. So my question would be about the drainage discharge to the west and how that's going to be handled. And I don't want to just be a drain discharge. So however that's, I don't know who, how, just, I don't know. I'm here to find out. Thanks.
Sure.
My name is Stan Pinkavich, North 57, West 25567, Fox Hollow Drive. I'm going to talk about the groundwater situation. Example, City of Waukesha went on public Milwaukee sewer system. Can we have an independent study how 30, 20, 10 years ago, how the groundwater level around that area, let's say 10 square mile area, is it up, down, and the projected volume of people coming in the next 10 years, how that would impact our groundwater around there? Have an independent study. How it was, how it is, and how it will be. And I believe that traffic, what these people are saying are correct. These studies are way off. Completely way off. Because I'm retired now and I see it myself, so I thank you for your time. Okay.
All right. I would take one more and then we'll answer.
David Hawk, HOCK, North 58, West 25611, Windy Pass Drive. I can't believe nobody else here but me is worried about coffee in the morning. You know, this happened out in Arizona. These people were supplied water from a utility and they cut them off. We just don't have the water. So now they haul water in and store it in storage tanks at $1,000 a month. That, we're not Arizona, but the groundwater is going down. In fact, in 1970s, when they were building all these homes, putting all the wells in, there's a constructor report filed with Waukesha. The average water level after pumping, the static water level, and then they pump it to test it, drops 35 feet. Some as much as 60 feet, and some 55 feet, and some 10 to 15 feet, So the water level is going down. In fact, there is a book, and I tried to find it one time. It's called Farmlands to Freeways. And there's an article by Marlon Johnson that states the Waukesha County water level has gone to 700 feet. Now it must be the very deep aquifers. And I think that's why Waukesha County is not going to Milwaukee. They're running out of water. And the deeper you go, the worse the water is. The radon goes up, everything. So there's gonna be 40 lots, watering brand new lawns, probably a half acre or more of turf for the next 5 years until they're all established. Why can't we bring water in from a utility? If we're gonna be developing all these lots, bring water in from Pewaukee. That's what happened with that subdivision, Redford subdivision. Sussex bought that, they brought water in, I think it comes, I don't know if it's coming from Pewaukee or not, maybe it comes from Sussex. So if we're gonna do all this developing, maybe we should bring water in, and not rely on all the groundwater. My brother has a subdivision in South Waukesha. They added on to their subdivision and their water just, it's terrible now. They can't clean it up. He's got an iron filter, he's got a water softener, he had to put in a big reverse osmosis system because the water just got dirty from whatever they were doing, drilling all these new wells. And the other thing is truck traffic. When they're constructing this subdivision, are they gonna be cutting through Partridge Hills? We've got all these heavy equipment coming through Partridge Hills because it's a shortcut. Thank you.
The applicant and the board at this time. We had a question on stormwater discharge. And Ms. Fallon, as far as how is it going to affect her property to the west? And this might be a good time too. Mitch wanted anybody to explain how this works when we do a development, how it works with the stormwater and what criteria these new developments need to meet. Putting you on the spot, Mitch.
Well, for all the developments that we look at, we review. The biggest thing that everybody's worried about is stormwater and being flooded out. So the one thing that we look at specifically is the discharge coming from these storm ponds where that's collecting all the water from the site and then discharging it down their natural waterways that were there in the beginning. So there are controls on those stormwater ponds that help us regulate the amount of discharge coming from there. So our ordinance, both here at the village and the state or county, is that we have to actually reduce that flow. So your property to the west should see actually less water in a typical rain event or even 100-year rain event. So we are reducing the amount of water based on the information they're provided. We check, and actually all of the stormwater is permitted through the county at this point in time. So we do review it from the village standpoint, but ultimately the county is the one that also gives the permits and provides feedback as well to the developers. So we're reducing the rate of the water coming towards them.
I just want to speak to the stormwater and now not speaking to this plan because I don't have this plan, this stormwater plan in front of me, but 25 years ago, I'm going to say communities weren't good at stormwater. They just weren't. I mean, you can go around Lisbon and probably find areas you look and go, what were they thinking? 2010 up, everything changed. We hired very good people to look at this and make sure that this stormwater is going to be the way it's supposed to be and proper. Our neighbors are probably a bit ahead of us on figuring it out. We caught up. We really watched this. We are really good at it. And we make sure that this isn't going to affect other people. Now, nothing's perfect, obviously, but I got to say, every development that's gone in since I have been here has either improved it or not made anything any worse for sure. So, and I can't it's about the best assurance I can give on that one. And that's just in general. That's not necessarily speaking to this development, but we have definitely gotten a lot better at stormwater in the last 15 years.
Yeah, just to add to the stormwater and specific to the question that was asked, there are 2 culverts through this stretch of Mary Hill. The one and our entrance, or where we envision an entrance, sort of the middle of the property, is a high point. You have 2 low points, off from there. The low points, the northern culvert actually drains water from what would be north and west of this property onto our property, and then the culvert towards the southern part of this property actually discharges today another series of drain tile, basically, to a roadside culvert that drains through the neighboring property. And what we have is, also looking at that area, stormwater management area, and this is just kind of a general statement and what you'll see in our stormwater design, anywhere that infiltration could be possible, if the soils have a little bit of permeability, we're going to take advantage of that and try to let it naturally infiltrate back into the ground. Our plan right now would be, and it looks like more of that southwestern area may have the highest potential. If we can do it in every stormwater area, that's definitely our goal, because we want these to be sustainable, to recharge kind of this area, and really to control the volume. So we've done it in other projects we've designed here in the village that I think have turned out really well.
Some more discussion about traffic. I pulled up the WisDOT traffic counts. They have an interactive map that everybody can go on. I did confirm that the listed traffic counts on Richmond Road were listed at 350. It's back down there. So, and by looking at that, it actually, if you click on it, it will show multiple different years. In 2022, it was 350. It was higher in 2018 up to 460, but it was way lower than in 2015 down to 360. Richmond Road, I can confirm, was 1300 to the east. It was 1500 to the west. The traffic counts in 2022 were 1300. 2009 was the last one. They were 1500. So it was actually lower in 2022 of 1300 on the east side and higher in 2009 of 1500. On the west side, 2022, it was 1500, and 2009, it was 1800. Obviously, things have changed with people working at home and other things, but, and it's a lot of the data is also depending on the day they do it. I will say, considering Mary, from my own perspective, looking at Mary Hill and looking at different roads in the village, like Lake 5, the traffic count there is 4,400. Hillside Road, another similar road, that traffic count is 2,700. And I'm talking the road itself, not necessarily the traffic control, but the road. So it doesn't, and then there's a lot of roads that, like Maple Avenue, there's no traffic count in the village, in our village. Woodside, it's a little bit wider. It's got some shoulders. That's 730, but it's something everybody can go on and look. The commission can look on and see. It's very interactive and such. Let's see, we addressed the stormwater. Somebody had talked about doing a static water level check. I mean, that's something we could look into, but that would be on, that wouldn't be part of this at this time, from my perspective, as far as the village goes. What else? Anybody have anything else?
I had,
that was new?
could you explain what soil suitability means?
Answer that one.
Yeah, so a soil suitability for the septic systems. Yeah, it's when you go and you do a perk test, you'll excavate the hole, and then the soil scientist will look at what the soils are, what they're made of, their drainage capabilities, and they'll rate those for really high or really fast septics to A+4 mounds, and based on the soil characteristics that they've used for a long time. That all the tests that we did will provide A+4 mound systems on this site.
Any questions from the commission at this time? Paula, anything?
Mitch.
Oh, sorry, Mitch.
One of the things that was brought up was regarding construction traffic, should this go through. We can, and I would ask you guys at this point, if this does go through, we would speak to the contractor and make sure that we're using one entrance and exit point from the site. We would not want them driving through a developed subdivision where there are children and pets and everything like that out playing, so we can control that.
John, any questions?
The only question just looking at the map, I know it was brought up back in June about the placement, of the access to the north on Autumn Way, going abutting into into a driveway. The access on Walnut and Autumn Way I think there was a question in June on that.
There wasn't, if you look at the current plan, we actually align with woods across the street. So really trying to be sensitive to headlights, and this location is different than any prior concept that you
Right.
saw. Yeah, really trying to pay attention to everything we can.
Exactly. I know that was a question in June and I know this was that addressed.
No. Is there anything I missed on the questions? Okay, we'll then open up again for more comments. Does anyone else wish to speak? Oh, no, sorry.
Ted Zindars, West 260 North 5833 Mary Hill Road. Just got a comment on what he just said about being conscious about headlights. Where that road, that subdivision exits is right in my driveway in my house. Not very conscious of where they come out. I'm against the traffic. I'm altogether against the subdivision, but I know it's gonna happen sooner or later. Could we reduce the amount of houses, which reduces the amount of traffic? My granddaughter has to go out on the end of my driveway and catch a bus every morning at 6 o'clock to go to school. This is right where the subdivision is gonna be driving all these trucks in and out. So I don't think they're really taking into account a lot of things they say they are. All right, thank you.
What else?
Hi, Alexa Smith, West 260 North 5807 Mary Hill Road. Lived there 31 years this summer. Seen the character change a lot. I'm in favor of all the points that were brought up in the petition. Please read it carefully. I think, it's very well thought out. I have concerns about the traffic. My house is one of the ones on the west side. And we're off the road, but we've still lost animals to traffic on the road. The people that are on the road have it much worse. I'm concerned about the wells. When we moved in, we had the basic water softener. At this point, we have the water softener, the reverse osmosis, the iron curtain. The water quality has changed over that amount of time. And I fear if we're putting 41 houses in, that it's going to change even more. And, when I moved to Lisbon, I fell in love with the rural character. Now, a lot of that has changed and I know it has to change. But we have so many subdivisions with small lots. I've seen it's like mushrooms popping up all around us. I get that people want to move to the country. I get that people want to make money on selling land. But at the same time, do we have to jam 40 houses into 60 acres? Do we want that to be the character of Lisbon? Do we want to become just part of this blanket of, forgive me, little houses made of ticky-tacky? Okay. I know that when the plan was approved some years ago, that this was, it all looked good. A lot of things have changed since that plan was made. Maybe we need to think about whether that plan is appropriate for what we want Lisbon to be. Okay, so please consider that. You know, the other thing too, I appreciate they're saying we want to be sensitive to having heavy trucks roll in and out. That doesn't help the people on Mary Hill, or if they're going to Walnut, that doesn't help the people on Walnut. You know, somebody's going to be pretty severely inconvenienced if you're putting in that many houses. Think about reducing the number of houses. A lot of people want a little more than an acre of land. Okay, so thank you for listening, and please do consider that I haven't heard anybody here really excited about having this happen. So, you know, think about that. Thank you.
Mary Fallon, I have a quick one. I'm going to help you with the static level. I just had to have my well re-drilled deeper. My static level has dropped 45 feet. I just, this spring, before I knew about this, had my well re-drilled at a cost of twice the amount of putting in the original well.
How deep is your well? Was it, how is it now?
It was 145. And I forget what it is now. They went down almost another 100 feet, and they think they're out of going down. And it's like Alexa said, it's really crappy.
I seen you were watching too. Thank you for being conscious of letting first timers speak.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Albert Quast, W257 and 5689 North Hill Drive. Just a couple of things that I had taken notes on when they were talking about some of the statistics and some of the other stuff about the wells. So, and you just look up on the DOT website that 350 cars for Mary Hill, roughly 1,500 for Richmond Road. That increase, the increase you're talking about, I mean, it's an impact for everybody, but have we also taken into consideration the traffic flow now for the new subdivision that's there for Redford Hills? That's coming through that line. And so that's just one of the items that I was looking at. The other thing was, it was mentioned that there was a study of individual wells do not have an impact. And they mentioned some sewer pack study. I'm just kind of a little bit more curious about that one because that Partridge, or our subdivision that we're in right now, I mean, a lot of those homes are there 40, 30, 40, 50 years, right? In that subdivision, that have wells that are established. We're going to come in and we're going to disturb an area of land in between that 30 and 40 years. That area has been farmed, you know, different elements have been put into the soil, things like that. What impact is that going to have when they start drilling down, disturbing that soil? That material is going to end up in that water. So just something to think about there. And then, you know, again, I'd like to reiterate the gentleman's point over here, you know, can they bring in, you know, sewer and water into that subdivision? I mean, maybe that's the solution. And I happen to live, if anybody knows North Hill Drive, I happen to live right at the start of the hill, and everybody's that's coming over the hill from the north side of the subdivision. People don't have a lot of time to react if I'm backing out of my driveway. So that much more increased traffic coming in through our subdivision, I think is definitely would have an impact
on me, because I know I've had a few close calls just backing out. So that's all I have. So thank you.
Sure.
My name is Edward Pouts, West 256, North 5921, North Hill Drive. In terms of the traffic coming into our subdivision, and I thought I heard you say that you can control or you won't have a thoroughfare coming through a subdivision. If you open up Fox Hollow and Erie, about half the traffic that's going out to Richmond Road is going to come out and go down North Hill Drive, making North Hill Drive a thoroughfare. I can tell you right now, even within our own subdivision, that's the only outlet down to Richmond Road. It's the only outlet to get anywhere in the area, Heartland, Sussex, Pewaukee. And now you're going to increase that traffic, probably double it at least, maybe triple it. And that's a big concern to me, because even though a lot of us in this room, excuse me, people, a lot of us are senior citizens. What we're seeing over the years, as our kids grew up, there was a time that there wasn't many new families moving in as families moved out of the subdivision. Now what we're seeing is young families with kids moving back into our subdivision as sales of the houses in Partridge Hill go up. So we're seeing another influx of another young generation of people coming in. So water use, even within our subdivision, is increasing. I am terribly worried about the wells, mine personally, as well as all of the people's wells that live in Partridge Hills. Now we're going to open up a subdivision and drill 40 more wells. And we're being told that that's not going to affect the water levels in our area. I just can't believe it. I really can't believe that. The other thing I guess I would leave you with is you as an elected board have a responsibility to the people that already live here, but also a responsibility to the people who are going to be moving in to our area. And you've got to think about, are you giving those people a good service to come into our township? Do we have enough infrastructure in terms of fire protection, police protection? Is Richmond School going to be able to handle this kind of an influx of new families? How about Arrowhead School District? Are they going to be able to handle it? I guess that's what I would leave you with. Very much opposed to this subdivision. And even though you say this is zoning, with all due respect, what we're talking about here is a new subdivision coming in, not zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lisa Zendars, W260N5833, Mary Hill Road. You were talking about the road going out to Walnut, lining up with their house. That, as my husband said, it's going to line up with our house, but it's also going to be right between ours and hers. Right now, we can't even back out of our driveway without worrying about getting hit. We have to go out, we have to pull out forwards. It's the only way to make sure that we're not hit by the current traffic. He says that there's only going to be about an additional 25 cars during their peak hours. That's nonsense. Because the traffic is not only going to be coming from their subdivision, but with all the other subdivisions going into the west, that they are coming down Richmond Road, they're making a right turn down Mary Hill Road. None of that is taken into account in these traffic studies so far. It's all adding up that the roads are not safe. I can't let my granddaughter go out on her bike. We've got other kids that are trying to get to work. Their only transportation is their parents or the bike. Their parents have to take them because it's not safe for them to take their bikes with the current traffic. And you want to add more. And with this other subdivision that's will probably go in off of 164 to the east of their subdivision, that's going to put in another thoroughfare besides Richmond, straight from 164 all the way up to Mary Hill. We can't control what they're doing, but it's going to tie into the current subdivision plus the new one. And that is going to significantly increase traffic. I know at some point in time that there will be a subdivision going in over there. That's just the way it is. But if the lot sizes can be bigger to reduce the number of houses in there, it will keep the feel that Lisbon is. We all came out here because we wanted rural by adding another 40 houses in there. That's not rural. And that's taking away from the lifestyle that we have. It's taking away from what people coming out here and looking and just like, oh, isn't this great? Look at all this wide open space. That's just going to be gone. You know, people like the idea of coming out into the country because, you know, well, maybe they can, you know, plant a big garden or something like that, you know, to grow some of their own food. I mean, yeah, it's not to the same extent as to what a farm is, but, you know, give them that opportunity. So let's just reduce the number of houses. It's going to affect the wells less. It's going to affect the groundwater less. It's going to affect the traffic less. Because no matter what these traffic studies say, they're wrong. That if they think that there's going to be no impact, then go out and do a new traffic study. Look at what it is now. Not 2 years ago, whatever. In the meeting in, was it June? At the end of it, it was, okay, they need to do a traffic study before we reconsider this. But that just got thrown out the window. Consider what everybody here is saying. Instead of just, okay, we want to get this sold so we can make money. Look at the lifestyle that you're impacting. Look at the people that you're impacting. Instead of, oh, let's just bring in more people. That way, you know, more tax money. I know that's the big driving factor is the more tax money, the more people. But that can't be the only consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Yvonne Hanson. I'm North 58, West 25600, Windy Pass. I guess my biggest concern is the wells. I don't even water my lawn anymore because we're worried that well's gonna go dry. How are we being assured our water isn't gonna be taken? I don't understand. And the main question I have, there's a lot of concerns here. but I've yet to hear one benefit this is gonna do for us. What are we gonna benefit? Everybody has concerns, but how is it gonna increase the value of my house? How is it gonna help me living in that neighborhood and continuing the lifestyle we have? Please, somebody just give me some benefits of this.
Carol, I'll be brief, but this is important. I'm listening to the comments and it's great input, substantial input. And what I'm hearing is it comes from our hearts. We don't have anything to gain with this development. Again, rezoning and then the development, let's be honest. And again, the statistics and the studies mean nothing. There's still going to be more demand on the water, and there's already concerns. We don't water our lawn either. And there's going to be demand, there's going to be increase in traffic, and there's going to be a reduction of safety, and there's going to be an increase in demand on the saturation of the soil. And we get down the road and our wells start going dry and we want to sell our homes. Who's going to back us? We're the only ones that have skin in the game. We're the only ones that have something to lose and nothing to gain. And so, you know, my final thought is you've heard us now and you represent us now. How are you going to make a decision on this? Taking our concerns into consideration because they are substantial. Partridge Hill subdivision is tiny. And it stands to get blown up. Thank you.
We take one more comment before does anyone else wish to speak?
Mary Schneider, West 255 North 5642 Rendell Court. My concern again is with the water. Our well had to be, you know, re-drilled deeper, and this was like 20 years ago. But I'm more concerned about the traffic because the back end of our lot hits Richmond Road. When we're down on that end of our yard trying to work, the traffic is unsafe. It's going, we've got cars going 60 miles an hour down that road. It's, you know, hilly. We're kind of on the dip on the bottom of a hill. Nobody can see if we're trying to haul branches out, you know, to the edge of the road. Also, when we bought into our subdivision, we've been there 49 years. It was controlled access in, controlled access out. It was great for kids. People have mentioned, you know, kids riding bikes in the subdivision. Currently, when you go down to the stop sign at North Hill in Richmond, you've got to look 3-4 times to make sure you're not getting traffic either way. When people coming up the hill, which is maybe a quarter mile, half mile to the east of North Hill, you cannot see traffic coming up. Depending on their speed that they're going, there's going to be a major accident there at some point in time. If you've got more traffic, you've got now Redford Hills in, people are going to be going both ways on Richmond, and it's going to be an issue. I mean, we have people coming up Mary Hill, they don't necessarily look, they don't stop at the stop sign, they just turn. And it's not going to be safe anymore.
Address anything new that was brought up. There was a question that was asked a little bit different. What would the effect of the current wells be on the new wells being drilled? It didn't sound to me that was a water level question, more of a question on when these wells are being drilled, is there something being introduced into the groundwater? Would that be correct? don't know who's best to answer that question, but it's. I don't.
Yeah, there's.
If you would step up.
It's regulated by the state. I don't pretend to know a lot about the well drilling, but there are regulations for drilling wells from the DNR.
I do know the standards have drastically increased because I know like for my house, if I live next to a quarry, if I were to have a new well drilled, it's an entire new well. It's not like they can just go deeper for me. I mean, it is a new well. It's 12-inch casing so far down and a different style, and it's sealed so far down. I do know it is drastically different than it was years ago, which is probably good. But I can't answer that question either, but it'd be something. I don't know that it affects my decision on a zoning end with that question, but I think it's a question that's a good question. The question on sewer and water. So here's the thing with sewer and water. Can sewer and water be brought in? Yep, sure can. You can do anything with money. And everyone that is in between where it comes in and where it ends up is also gonna get it, because that's how it works. And when you develop lots in sewer and water, you don't develop 1 acre lots. I know a lot of people think this is a highly dense subdivision. 1 acre lots is not a highly dense subdivision by any means. It has been the general consensus of a lot of people that have been in here looking for, have been talking about lots and sizes. They think this is the 1/4 acre and 1/3 acre lots. This is not, this is 1 acre lots. In fact, the homes that are on Fox Hollow Drive and that's. I'll try, Bill. The homes that are in the subdivision to the east are actually smaller than what is going to be developed here. Some of them are considerably smaller. So it's, I would not, from my perspective, when we're going to be discussing up here, I do not see these as a highly dense subdivision. The size of these lots is fairly large. They would not fit a model for sewer and water. I can tell you, we don't do 1/2 acre lots in Lisbon anymore, sewer and water. We figured out that probably wasn't a good idea. We have quite a few of them. We ended up putting a lot of them on sewer and water on the east side of town by town line. Just because of that. So yes, the sewer and water, yes, it can happen. I don't think anybody in this room wants it to happen, but it can happen, yes. People have been actually speaking to the board, the plank, just so a little bit of, so everybody knows with elected officials, non-elected officials. Becky, myself, and Paula are the board members here that are elected. The rest of the members here are appointed plan commission members, just so everybody is aware. It's commissions are appointed and they have a member of the board that usually serves on them. In this case, Paul is here because for the public hearing tonight, we have to satisfy that we have a quorum of the board here for that. Normally Becky and I would just be on the plan commission, and each committee usually has 1 or 2 members on it, just so little education on that part. What did as far as new questions, does anybody have any wrote down that were new? I wrote down questions, but a lot of them were repeat questions that we've already talked about, so I'm not just gonna rehash them, but from the staff or from the commission, did you write anything down that was new?
Like somebody brought up the police and fire and school situation.
Sure. That one from our we have to plan for that when we do our long range planning. We have to make sure the infrastructure is in place. On the fire end, the school end, that is not our end, that's the school end where they handle that. I can tell you, I don't know a school district around that hasn't wanted more kids. I find it very odd. But they don't want to give up kids and they want more and more kids. I know they get more funding when they do that, but that is not anything that's handled up here. From a police end of it, I don't know. I mean, we're in a pretty good area, but I swear some days we could have 60 squad cars and not be enough, and other days we don't need any. So I can tell you from a fire perspective, 40 homes, we're going to be in good shape with. You'll be able to come up again. You'll be able to come up. Yep, sir, you will be able to come up as soon as we open it up again. So any questions from the commission, Paula, John? All right, now if you wish to speak, you can come up. You got to come up. Okay.
Joe, there were a couple other questions.
Okay,
Someone asked, how is the plan commission and village board going to make a decision on the rezoning?
that we will, once the public hearings are closed tonight, we will debate the information that has been presented. We will not introduce any new information at the time. We will take everything that we've heard from this public hearing tonight. I apologize, my son calling from DC. We'll take into account the information we've been given tonight, debate, a decision could be rendered tonight. We could ask for more information and come back, but that's what will happen. The board will discuss and vote. One thing, a lot of people want to come up and speak, apparently wants to talk, want to speak their mind and with a lot of emotion, and I get it. I really do. I live next to a quarry. I've been there. We can't sit here and take the emotional end of things into account on a lot of this. We have to take the factual end in. We have a study. The study says this. Unless the study has been disproven, we can't just take that study and say, somebody said it isn't good. Somebody needs to bring another study that can combat that study with other information. Opinion has to be weighed accordingly with a lot of this. And that's not a popular opinion. A lot of people aren't going to like that. But it's just how it is. It has to be a non-emotion based decision. I don't want the farm field gone. I don't either. But people own land. They decide to bring plans forward. We have to consider those plans based on the rules we have. We don't like the rules, we need to change the rules, not just every instance that comes forward that we don't like. If the rules in the play, if it meets a certain criteria and we find that it meets that criteria, we can't use the emotional end to say, no, we can't do that. We're just going to get sued. It's going to happen anyway. So that's why we have to take into all the non-emotional factors and the evidence that's in front of us, just so everybody knows. And trust us, we don't want to be up here. We don't want to do a lot of these. We don't search development. This community has never gone out, with the exception of Leeds, has never gone out and searched out development. You see subdivisions coming in, it is not because we contacted someone and say, hey, would you please put a subdivision here? This has always been, since I have been here, landowners coming in and requesting this. With the exception of Leeds, special case, I can explain after the meeting if anyone wants to talk about that, but just to be 100% honest. So what was the other one? Did you say you had another one?
Nope, I think that was the last one I had.
Might have just been delaying to get a sip of water. Okay, so one more, we'll open up again. If anybody has any new questions they would like to ask. Sure.
Steve Hawk again. Want the address?
Nope.
Okay. How about a groundwater study in this area? I mean, I have dropped my well 12 feet. It used to be at 95, now it's down 100 and something. So maybe what we need is a groundwater study to see what the water level is like. That's it.
Like I said earlier, the city of
Sir, can you
Waukesha.
state your name for everyone on Zoom
I'm
to hear?
sorry, Stampenkevich.
Thank you.
Like the city of Waukesha lost, I mean, they got awfully deep wells. Around this area here, the population is growing. Before you put a subdivision in, why can't you do an independent study of the groundwater level and how it affects us 10, 20 years from now? Or even 5 years from now, compared to 30, 20, 10 years ago, now, and into the future, because the population's growing. And you can't tell me 40 new homes are not gonna affect our area. That's hogwash, you know? So, because Heartland's growing, everybody's growing. I'm not against development. I just want to be sure that our homes are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything new? Oh, okay, so you, sir, and then man behind you.
I get the impression that some of you have already made your decision. Tom Carroll. I get the impression that some of you have already made your decision on this by virtue of defending the desire to do the rezoning. And that you're gonna make your decisions based on the facts. And if there's a faulty study, but there's no study to refute it, the fact that the faulty study is fact. But here's the fact that here's the question I want to know. The biggest fact that I've heard tonight is that we don't want it. We don't want the impact. We don't want the risk. We don't want the lifestyle change. And yeah, and the emotion is real. I don't care what you say. The emotion is real because we have, we're the only ones with the skin in the game. And I want to know, is your decision using the facts, the fact that we don't want it, how much are you going to weigh that into the facts of the faulty studies? Well, I'm speculating, but it's pretty clear. To bring a 24 count study up here is insulting. It's ridiculous.
Carrie Carpenter. With regards to the 2022 traffic study on Mary Hill Road, you confirm, Mr. Osterman, that the traffic count is 350 cars per day. That does not take into account the additional traffic that is going to result from the 236 homes being built on Mary Hill and Silver Spring and Vista Run. That does not take into account the 28 additional homes just west of Osplick that will be built on Mary Hill Road. So to say that there's 350 cars per day based on this study, that is not going to accurately reflect the number of cars per day and the increase in traffic that we are going to see from not only those two subdivisions, but in addition, a third one, or any of the traffic from Redford Hills or any of this other surrounding areas. That is why we called for the traffic assessment in the June meeting to take into account the substantial increase, 822% increase in the number of residences that will be connected to Mary Hill Road. Those are the stats that you need to look at, not a statistic from last year that says that the road will meet current traffic conditions. That's irrelevant. We're looking forward to the future, not backwards. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? That one.
Sandy Nordman, North 60, West 25830, Walnut Road. I live here because of my emotions. I do not live here because of the town's studies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted Zindars, he's got a quick question. We keep talking traffic study. How was this done in 2022? Did somebody stand on a corner and count cars? I don't remember seeing anything, any of those ropes or whatever they put across the road that counts cars. How was it done? Can somebody answer that?
When we're,
Yeah, right. That's a question.
Thank you. Watch the terminology, Bill. Anyone else? Okay.
We did.
No, not anymore.
C Block on Zoom, you had your hand raised.
Go ahead. C Block? Yes. Terry wants to speak too. Terry Getz. No? Okay,
No.
she's saying no.
She's saying no. Okay.
All right. C Block is, oh, he says it's connecting the audio here. Go ahead, C Block. You have to unmute yourself. Did you still wish to speak, C Block? All right, we see the hand up, we'll let him speak then. Or her, I don't know who that is. Oh, hands raised again. Go ahead. C Block. You can speak. Having some issues.
C Block on Zoom, you can go ahead with your comments.
If they start speaking, we'll move to them. All right, we'll go to the answer portion again. All right, so there was a question. I just want to make a comment about the study. My comments on that study were just to confirm that those numbers were accurate. I confirmed that the study was accurate. I listed off the time just as evidence because we need to, any evidence has to be presented here. The date of the study was July 26, 2022. That's on the website. Everybody, a few people have asked about doing a well study. So I'm not sure if that's for the entire village or if that's just for this area, but if we're talking about something for the entire village, that is something that would have to be brought up to the board. The board is the only one that can advocate spending money. We don't have any money to spend. So that would have to come to the village board. I mean, you could submit that to the board and have a discussion about it. That absolutely could be something. The same thing with any kind of studies that if you're looking for village wide, that would have to go to the board. It was asked about the traffic assessment, noted their 822% increase in homes was the statement. Something for the board to consider. What else did I miss? Did I miss anything else? I don't know the answer. I mean, it's usually the traffic studies are they're Mitch is gonna be.
Yeah, traffic studies are done both physically and also with the bands that go across the road to count the cars. So
We don't know how this one was done.
I don't know, no.
Yeah. It doesn't say. I see nothing in here that says how this one was done. I don't know if the developer knows how it was done. I can't see anything on here.
You go to the.
You have to come up to the mic.
All right, if you go to the DOT intro page, the traffic count page, it does give a description. It says it's based on a short duration traffic count, usually 48 hours taken at the location. The count is then adjusted for the variation in traffic volume throughout the year and the average number of axles per vehicle. So they collect it, they extrapolate it based on known traffic characteristics and generate this map.
Is there anything else that I missed from anybody? No? All right, we'll go to the commission and board one more. All right, Paul, anything?
I'm good, thanks, Joe.
Sean, Sherry, Joe, Brian, Becky. All right. I remember on Zoom, is their hand still raised? C Block, did you want to try again? All right, open up again.
Harry Carpenter. The traffic study was conducted July 26th when schools were not in session. So we had zero traffic from all of the school buses, the parents, all the surrounding neighborhoods dropping off their kids to and from school. July 26th, 2022. The ski hill is not in operation. 400 members of the ski hill, plus all of the surrounding communities and schools that have ski meets and competitions at the ski hill, were not included in that traffic study. Sherwood Forest Bowman typically starts around the fall season with all of their archery meets and archery shoots, would not have been included in this study. That's significant traffic, hundreds of additional cars and buses that were not taken into account in this study. And I believe it was the developer that said something about 350 cars and a 400 car capacity per day for rural. With all of that I just mentioned, and taking into consideration Vista Run and Alpine Hills subdivisions, and this one, you are well over that 400 car limit. Consider all of that and understand where we are coming from. So these studies are irrelevant. They are not taking into consideration the full impact of the area. Everything needs to be considered, not just 40 houses and 40 extra cars or 25 extra cars during peak traffic. You need to account for all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? On Zoom? Anyone else? No one else, then I'm going to close.
Wait.
Oh, oh.
Did you already said that this could be adjourned? Barely.
Developer, have any final closing comments? Oh, you want to go? Go with this gentleman and then. Let me go.
I think the woman who just got up and talked a little bit about, Edward Pounce. I think after listening to all of the questions everybody had or comments on traffic, for those of us who live here, and I mean live here, down Mary Hill, Partridge Hills, up and down Richmond Road, up and down Highway K, we need to, I guess you have to take into consideration the lack of infrastructure that's here to even handle what we already have. Right down the road from Partridge Hills going east, there's a new subdivision going in. There's, I believe, over 50 homes going on the parade of homes. On the parade of homes. All of that traffic is going to be emptying onto Richmond Road. I don't know how that, I know that's a town of Sussex down there, but a lot of that traffic will probably go west. a lot of those, you know, I think a study of the infrastructure around this area really needs to be made. Trying to keep, you know, it's hard to keep emotions out of this. So I think a non-emotional study of the infrastructure of the area, because this won't be the only subdivision going in. You know, there's property, empty farmland property east of Partridge Hills. That's been talked about being subdivided for the last 25 years. What's going to happen to our infrastructure if something else goes in down there? I just don't believe that the area has the infrastructure to take on too much more. I don't think you can widen Richmond Road. I'm not too sure you can even put in shoulders. Tell you the truth, I don't travel a lot on Mary Hill, but the little that I have traveled on Mary Hill, it doesn't seem to me like you can widen Mary Hill or even put in shoulders. You know, I think you guys have got to think about that. Other than that, the last question I have is, how are we going to know what your decision is and when are we going to? How is that going to be done? I'm going to tell you right now that the notice to these meetings hasn't been given to everybody in Partridge Hills. And this subdivision is going to affect every single family. Essentially, this subdivision is an extension of Partridge Hills, with the roads going through Erie and Fox Hollow. So how are we going to know? How and when are we going to know your decision?
When we close this portion, we'll answer questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Bill?
Bill Swift. I'd like to know what hours they had this survey done for traffic. What I'd like to know.
Anyone else?
I'll just keep it brief right now. There's been a lot of comments spoken tonight, and I just want to thank the Plan Commission for their time, the residents coming out. We'll take a listen to their comments, and if the project moves forward, we'll try to create the best situation possible for this new neighborhood with the village and with the residents in mind. So thank you again for your time.
Bill had a question. I believe that was addressed. It was I believe it was stated it was a 48-hour traffic count. And as far as the notices, Elisa, can you state how the notices were sent out for this one?
Yep, so this question came up at the last public hearing and also what we do anytime that there is a public hearing.
Sorry, I wasn't on. What we do anytime there is an item before the Plan Commission or the Village Board that requires a public hearing. A legal notice is placed in the Waukesha Freeman, that's our official newspaper. It is posted 7 days and 14 days before the public hearing, as required by state statute. And the legal requirement, as well as our village ordinances, require us to do a 300-foot circumference around the affected property for mailing out notices. We actually go beyond that to 500 feet out. So any property owner within 500 feet of the subject property is who is mailed a notice.
Any further
Does
questions?
that encompass all of
Sir,
the
sir, sir, hold on. It's up here right now. Any other questions from the commission? Okay. His question obviously is whether or not the entire subdivision is covered by it. I don't.
It is not. It cuts through. It's a mapping function that is done based on the county GIS system, and it's automatically done.
So this will open up again for comments.
Keith Kunkel. The last notice we got was rolled up on a rubber band on the side of my mailbox. We did not get a mailed notice about tonight's meeting.
That wasn't from us.
That was on the Lisbon Town Head.
That's not how we mail those notices out.
Well, I'm just saying that's the only way we found out about it.
So we've.
I
Does anyone else
understand.
have a okay, I don't want to just do back and forth.
No.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? So answer that. We follow the legal procedures and we post everything on the website. And I know it's been going across. I mean, Facebook is probably the number one way people find out about things today. I mean, quite honestly, some of the board members find out on that quicker than we do on our own website. So the information gets out there. It isn't sent to everyone. You can't send to everybody in the community every time something's going on. The postage would be astronomical. So is there any other comments or questions tonight for this public hearing? We have a Mike Cooney also. C Block? Oh, right there. You have to unmute yourself, C Block. Yeah, right in the, I seen him, yeah. He's just gotta unmute himself to talk. Says connecting. Go ahead and try talking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? All right. Yes. Go ahead, C Block.
Here. Okay.
So just a couple concerns too.
Please state your name and address.
Can you hear me fine?
Just state your name and address. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, Casey Block. We're in one of the main R1 zones, North 58, West 25737 Fox Hollow Drive. So our cul-de-sac, our property abuts up to the cornfield where you want to put the road in. We've lived here for, it'll be 20 years in December. We built this house for the reason that a lot of you guys have stated, because again, we wanted the good school district. We wanted to be in a rural area. Cul-de-sac was great, fine. I find it very comical that we have one exit in this subdivision now, as we have had since inception of the subdivision. And now all of a sudden we just want to add two. It's already a pain in the butt to drive, especially on Tuesdays with garbage, like the garbage pickup. Like there's no room. Like you literally have to stop and wait for traffic and try to slow down to get around these garbage trucks. And then I'm talking Amazon, any deliveries. This subdivision is too small to add two more roads to go through a new subdivision. And water is an issue, which I can have my husband probably. So water is an issue for sure. We have had with the storm drain, which you were talking about earlier, we are that house that has the storm drain come directly from the cornfield. We have had our driveway washed out, which we've had to redo. So while emotions are taken out of this, there are still some, because again, we moved out here. for that reason. And I get, this is an older subdivision. There's still a lot of senior citizens, but on top of some of the other people's comments, yes, new families are moving in with kids, tons of dogs all over the place. Again, runners, walkers, it doesn't matter. That traffic is gonna intensify greatly. So those are my major concerns.
Thank you. Mike Cooney?
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Mike Cooney, North 58, West 25680 Fox Hollow. Two questions or comments. One would be, I've heard about traffic studies that have been conducted on Richmond and Mary Hill. Have there been traffic studies done on North Hill and the increase in traffic that would result as a result of the proposal? And then secondly, if this were to be developed, and maybe this isn't the time to ask the question, would there ever be consideration to making the roads that the new connections, if you will, between the subdivisions one way, so that we would at least, particularly with respect to North Hill, maybe make the traffic only half as much in terms of increase. In other words, the short roads in the new proposed subdivision, if those short sections were one way, would there be some benefit to everyone in just kind of limiting the flow of traffic, assuming this gets approved?
That'll do it, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? The question of the one-way roads is something we would address when a subdivision plan was brought before us, assuming that if the zoning was approved and a subdivision plan was brought forward, that's something that would be addressed at that time. If the developer wants to talk about any traffic studies that may have been done on Fox Hollow, if you're aware of any, shaking his head no.
The last one that was done by the DOT was in 2003 with 150.
This is the factual information that was asked and we responded. Okay. All right. At this time, any other questions from the board? Any other questions from the audience? Questions or comments at this time? Anything else on Zoom? This will be the final call then for any comments or questions. Okay.
Tom Carroll, if North Hill is the main egress out of that subdivision, and that's going to be dramatically impacted by traffic, and the professionals are so attentive to the details, why hasn't a traffic study been done for North Hill Drive?
Any other?
Carrie Carpenter, you had mentioned that if we wanted to request a well study and some sort of an assessment of the effect that the new subdivision would have on the wells and the groundwater, that would need to be done through the Village of Lisbon. Will the Planning Commission vote here tonight ahead of that study to approve this or not approve
Ms.
this?
Goldenberg, that's not what I said. I said,
Okay.
if they wanted to do an entire village study, it would have to go to the board. That's my comment.
Okay,
If somebody wanted to do an entire village study, that has to go to a board, because then the village is paying for it. The board has to approve it because they hold the money.
okay, so if we just want some sort of an assessment before this moves forward,
of the
This would be the time
existing
you would be-
area, we could,
You would ask the plan
Request
commission to
that?
consider that.
we would ask you to consider that.
We as in you.
You, sure, all of us. And we also go back to the request that we made in June for the comprehensive traffic assessment, taking into consideration all of the Lisbon and Sussex properties that are currently under development and are currently proposed for development, and the impact that that will have on Mary Hill, Richmond Road, North Hills, and all of those surrounding areas that will be impacted, including whether the roads could be widened or not. And if so, at what expense to the taxpayers? And who would be responsible if there were homes, barns, buildings, houses that needed to be acquired in order to do so? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything the developer wants to respond to of those questions? Okay. All right, any other questions from on Zoom? See no hands raised. Anything else from the audience? So that will be the final call for any comments or questions from the audience. Close the public hearing then at 8:56. Does anybody need a break for a minute? Are you ready to go into the plan commission meeting?
How do you know the outcome and when?
Potentially tonight.
What?
Potentially tonight, if you stick around, potentially. The board, stick around. Stick around. We're starting that meeting next. Okay. All right, we'll open then the regular plan commission meeting at 8:57. Item 2 is citizens' comments. Does anyone have any citizens' comments on anything on the agenda tonight? Anyone on Zoom? Item 3, approval of the minutes. We have the May 24th, 2023 public hearing and plan commission minutes, and then the July 26th, 2023 public hearing and plan commission minutes. Do we have any comments or questions, or is there a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion for the approval of both sets of minutes as presented.
Joe, to approve both sets of minutes. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Brian. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item 4, new business. A, discussion and necessary action on the request by applicant Joe Vukovich, MLG Capital, on behalf of the owner Terry Getz and Condon Properties LLP, to rezone the vacant parcel located along Mary Hill Road and known as tax key LSPT 0255.998 from A10 agricultural zoning district to R1 suburban single family residential zoning district, and recommendation to the village board of the same. Yep, Warren.
I would just add that we do have some recommended conditions should the plan commission choose to recommend approval of this. The recommended conditions include that the subject property be rezoned from A10 to R1, be limited to this particular tax parcel number for the property that we've been speaking of, subject to the Village of Lisbon's approval of a final plat, which would mean that if the project doesn't come to fruition, moving forward with the approval of final plat, the rezoning would be null and void. The Village of Lisbon staff be directed to draft a rezoning ordinance and place it in final form consistent with the Village of Lisbon's discussion, and that the approval be subject to the petitioner and or property owner reimbursing the Village of Lisbon for all costs and expenses. There's some more boilerplate language there for that one.
Else from staff?
Nothing further.
Open this up for discussion at the plan commission level. Questions or comments? Anything for you, Sean?
A lot of it's all been addressed. I mean, I'll defer and come back on that. I'll come back and.
Jerry?
I guess I'm at the same point I was at the June meeting with this. I am hesitant to make a decision on the R2 zoning until we would have some kind of a traffic study to see what kind of impact the roads can even handle the currently proposed increases in traffic. My other concern is seeing the amount of hydric soil. I'm assuming these are hydric soil from high groundwater on this property. If the wells on those homes will even be, depending on the level of the high groundwater, feasible. Just from personal experience on a property next to mine, they had to weight down their wells. It kept floating up because of the groundwater was so high. So I guess that would be a concern with this many houses on a property that's impacted by a large amount of hydric soils or high groundwater. I guess that would play into my decision on whether the zoning is appropriate.
Go.
Based upon the the information provided, proposed development meets the density and lot size and the comprehensive plan requirements for that parcel. It's the only comments I have.
Brian?
I do agree with Joe. However, I don't know if requesting a traffic study at this point is appropriate since it's just a rezone. So that I'm a little unsure of. That's all I have to say for now.
I agree with Brian and Joe. That's all I have to say, I think.
Do you wanna? John, did you wanna?
The soil issue and as everybody said, the groundwater issue is definitely a concern. Driving up as I've done on Mary Hill in the area. There is not a lot of room.
Can you pull the mic a little closer to you,
yeah.
Sean?
Just trying to keep the hip thing. There is, as I said, the roads, as people have mentioned, there is not a lot of room for expansion. And that needs to be a concern as going forward.
For my part, if I check off the boxes for a rezone, this clearly checks them off in my head for the rezone. As far as a subdivision being put in, I would address that at the time that if and when it would be brought forward to be put in. Looking at the traffic counts from my experience here in the village, I see no reason that a 40 lot subdivision is going to drastically affect the traffic in this area. There are other concerns of other subdivisions going in, but those aren't the ones that are in front of us tonight, nor is this one the major driving factor of those. But as far as the rezone goes, I have a list of checking it off. I actually went online just to look at the rezone criteria again, make sure I didn't miss anything. And for me, it checks off the boxes. So. Any other comments or questions from the commission?
Could I ask the applicant a couple questions? Would that
Can't
be
be any
okay?
new evidence. The clarification of anything we've already discussed, but it could not be of anything of new evidence.
I think I'll fit in the clarification category, but stop me if I don't. The applicant. I cannot do that? Okay.
There's no way. You had to listen and take notes. I'm sorry.
You
Okay.
can't ask clarification?
Nope. Well, hearing flow.
I do
There's no
disagree
way
with
that
that.
won't be considered additional information. And if you're gonna let him answer, then you let the public in. I don't care. If you wanna let the public respond also. That the opportunity to ask the developer was during the public hearing. And you can disagree with me all you want. The court's gonna say.
John, respect. I'm the chair. Respect.
But we no longer have a quorum of the voting board.
Right, if it was asking a similar question that was already asked, that was the question. So,
I can actually, you know what, I'm gonna skip. I don't wanna take any chances. I think I have enough information, because I do agree with you, Mr. Chair, that it does check all the boxes. And anything that I was going to ask would just be clarification necessarily for myself, and the more I think about it, it should be addressed when or if the subdivision is proposed. I don't know if that was the right way to word it, but understood, Mr. Macy.
the questions? No. Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the village board the change in zoning from A10 to R1 based upon the proposed rezoning, meaning the category, lot size, and comprehensive plan of the village.
There's a second.
I'll second it.
Are you including the conditions also in the motion?
Yes.
Planner is the second, okay with those conditions? Both will be
Yes.
Included. Motion and second are both okay with the planner's conditions. Any other discussion? Any other discussion from the commission?
None.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Did everybody vote aye? Carried. Motion carries unanimous. Everybody, we can take a short recess. People are gonna leave. If you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to. We have 4 or 5 more items to go through tonight. So we gotta do this on facts. I know.
The petitioner is requesting approval of a 2-lot certified survey map on their property, which I have up on the screen, which is located off of 164. The proposed new lot would be on the north end of the property, which is about 36 acres now. So what they're proposing is a new 10-acre lot, and the remnant would be about 26.09 acres. The property is zoned 80-10, which allows 10-acre lots. There's also an option to develop the parcel, which we kind of briefly discussed earlier, at an average density of, can have as low as 1-acre lots, but you still have to meet the overall density of 10 acres for the site. The Braylons have chosen to do the former, which would be the 10-acre lot density. The proposal meets the requirements for the district. The staff recommends a few notes to be added to the face of the CSM for basically housekeeping and for remember things in the future. That lot 1 may not be redivided under the current 80-10 zoning. Lot 1 is the proposed new lot, which is being proposed to be just about 10 acres. So we're basically stating that you can't redivide the new 10-acre lot. One remaining development right would still exist for the proposed second lot, which would be about 26 acres. So you could get another 10-acre parcel out of that theoretically. And so we would ask for a note to be added that one remaining development right for a 10-acre lot is still located on lot 2 under the current 80-10 zoning. As part of this proposal, the petitioner is agreeing to make an improvement to Miter Drive by adding a temporary T turnaround at the end of the pavement for that road. This particular road currently just ends in a stub. There's no temporary cul-de-sac. There's no existing T turnaround. So we have a condition or a note rather to be added to the plat that states no further division of lot 2 unless a cul-de-sac is installed from Miter Drive, which would be a more permanent terminus than the T turnaround. As far as access goes, the Braylons are proposing a driveway off of Miter Drive, and the remnant parcel currently has access and will continue to have access to 164 from an existing driveway that crosses the river. The last note would be that one driveway is allowed to be installed off the end of Miter Drive. So what we're saying is that for this proposed minor land division, with the improvement of the temporary T turnaround, one driveway is acceptable for the new lot. If there's going to be a future land division to exercise the remaining development right, that would require an improvement of a cul-de-sac. Staff is recommending that the public improvement be subject to the petitioner submitting to and receiving from the village attorney and the village engineer approval of a developer's agreement for the public improvements prior to commencing construction of any public improvement or site development. So we're not saying that the improvement be done prior to the site development, but we're saying that there be an agreement of how that improvement is going to be done prior to the site development taking place. So we've got a condition for each of those recommended notes in the recommendation, and that the petitioner satisfy all comments, conditions, and concerns of the Village of Lisbon Plan Commission and Board, village engineer, village planner, and village attorney, including those outlined in this report, and any and all reviewing, objecting, and approving bodies regarding the certified survey map prior to signature. There are some technical comments from Kunkel, if the engineer wants to speak to any of those.
As always, we completed our technical review, but it was brought to my attention that since the village has changed or is now a village, the town is now a village, and you guys control your own shoreland zoning, that there's a note on page 8 that we will have to add to our technical review comments. So.
Just that change occurred during the process of the certified survey map. So surveyors have to reflect the conditions that exist when they're making the survey. So when this was drafted, we hadn't yet finished our process of adopting shoreline zoning. So that would be why that change is needed.
Questions from the commission? Sean, anything? Sherry? Joe?
None.
Brian? Becky? Anything else from the applicant? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the request by the owners, Michael and Vicky Brayland, for approval of a 2-lot certified survey map to divide the property located at W259 and 9116 State Road Highway 164, Lisbon tax key number 0159.996, and recommendation of the board, village board of the same, along with the planner's comments and requirements.
Second,
I'll second.
satisfy everything we're looking. I see there was a spoken depending on confirmation of the village plan commission on the above described comments. This satisfies everything we need. Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Item C, discussion necessary action on the request by owner Pam Polyak Trucking for approval of a site plan of operation amendment to add rental shop space on the property located at West 223 North 6219 Richard Road, LSPT 0241.999.010. Warren?
Give me 1 second, I'll bring this up on our screen here. All right, so this property is located in the new business park off of Richard Road. Petitioner and property owner are requesting approval of a site plan of operation amendment to lease approximately 3,950 square feet of shop space within the Polyak Trucking Building to Austin John Zilmer, DBA Land Low Services LLC. The proposal is for the use for the space to be used as it always was intended to, but rather than Polyak doing their own truck and heavy equipment repair, Laying Low Services LLC would be utilizing that space and conducting that use within that space. As far as conditions go, this would be subject to use being limited to a trucking and logistics company with a maintenance shop for repairs and maintenance, associated parking and commercial truck parking, and leasing approximately 3,950 square feet of maintenance shop space to Laying Low Services LLC. So really the change for this one is the leasing of the shop space versus Polyak conducting that use themselves. We also have that a condition that any business signage would be required to obtain signage approval through the Village of Lisbon sign application process. The rest of our conditions are boilerplate conditions that the Plan Commission has seen previously. Looks like we do have some folks here regarding this item. If there's any questions from the Plan Commission.
Ed, the applicant?
Got some questions, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. The office hours that are in this proposal for the site plan of operation, the operating hours differ from what is going to be in the site plan of operation for the thing. All I'm saying is this one says 5 to 5 Saturday and Sunday, and from 6 to noon on Saturday and Sunday. The one for the mechanic operation says 7 to 4 Monday through Friday and Saturdays by appointment. It doesn't matter to me as long as they're consistent. If one is contained within the other, that's all I'm saying. It's to protect you.
Sorry.
No problem.
I can answer that. I don't, from our standpoint in terms of trucking, we do note in the description on number 3 that we need 24/7 access to the building, including the
Right.
drivers and space.
Right.
The office hours are purely the office staff, my AR person, my billing
Okay.
person, my accounting person. We still run a 24/7
Sure,
business.
I understand that.
And you are?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My name is Pamela Polyak.
I
Hi, everybody,
remember you,
again.
Pam.
Sorry.
But on the application for the site plan of operation for Lane Low Services, it's less than that. I just want to, it's to protect you, so somebody doesn't I realize you have a 24-hour operation. I realize the office hours are less than that, and that's fine. I want to make sure that the mechanical operations for Lane Low are contained, are going to work out with what you've got in there.
Joe, are
If
you
you're
talking
saying that's
to-
part of the 24-hour operation, 7 days a week, then that's fine. I just want to make sure it's on the record that it fits.
Yes, it fits under the 24/7 from our standpoint.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. That's, it's a technicality, but these things sometimes come back and bite property owners. I just want to make sure it's clear and it's on the record that the work that they're going to be doing in your building is consistent with what you've got.
Yes, sir.
That's all it's the only comment. And the only other question I have, and I don't know if this comes up on the next agenda item or not, or if it's part of this one. Is this work that's going to be done only for your company, or is it going to be for others?
It will be not open to the public in terms of cars and automotive standpoint. He will be working on my vehicles as well as his own. From a trucking standpoint, he'll be working on the vehicles in transportation, not open to the public in terms of you can't bring your car there for an oil change, open to the public
If-
type situation.
If I've got a truck and I need some work done on it, can I take it to his operation and have it done?
That would be up to him, yes. From my standpoint, I have agreed to that for between him and I have agreed to that. Once he gets occupancy permit, he can do that.
Okay, because we want to make sure that that's contained in the plan of operation for Lane Low Services LLC. It's specifically stated it's for your operation and others. I want to make sure it's in there. So it's to protect you and for everybody to know what's going on.
Okay.
So it's not exclusively for Pontiac.
So for-
Correct.
Okay,
For her, I mean, she's just setting up a rental space.
I
essentially.
understand.
So on the next agenda item.
right. I just want to,
Yep.
I didn't want you to leave before we get this other one taken.
Oh, I wasn't gonna,
Okay.
I
I just
could
want to
stick
make,
out the last 3 hours. I got you.
oh, yeah, well, have so much fun. I just want to make sure that it's clear. And it's actually to protect you and to protect you. So that's the only comments I have, Mr. Chairman.
Becky,
Nothing from me.
anything else from staff? Anything else from the applicant?
No, sir.
Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to action on the request of owner Pam Polyak and Polyak Trucking for approval of site plan of operation amendment to add rental shop space on the property located at W 223 N6219 Richard Road, tax key number 0241999010, with including the comments by planner.
Second? Second, Sean? Second by Sean. All right, any further discussion? Everything's good on this end? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, discussion and necessary action on the request by owner Austin Zomer Landlow Services for approval of an original site plan of operation for heavy duty truck and equipment repair shop on the property located at the West 223-6219 Richard Road, LSBT 0241.999.010. Lauren?
Well, this is piggybacking off of the previous item.
I got a question on this. Tax key number says 012 and you were saying 010. On the staff review page. It's
Might be.
024199.012.
Okay, might be a typo.
The agenda's correct, so we're good.
They carried over. Next. keep
Okay.
running, both of them.
I'll fix that. Apologies. So this is piggybacked off the previous item. The request is for approval of a site plan of operation for Lay and Low Services to lease that 33,950 square feet approximately of shop space from Pontiac Trucking in their building to operate heavy duty truck and equipment repair business. The petitioner anticipates having 6 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee with hours of operation as noted by Commissioner Everly from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday and Saturdays by appointment. And then operating hours being 24/7, 365. The recommended conditions include that overhead garage doors be closed while vehicles are being serviced. One of the responses to regarding noise was that air tools and equipment inside the building may be heard if doors are open, and noise may be heard from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So the condition is stating that, you know, obviously you have to bring vehicles in and out, but that while vehicles are being worked on with those tools, that the garage doors remain closed. And then again, a condition regarding any business signage being required to obtain approval through the Village of Lisbon sign application process. And then the remainder are our boilerplate conditions.
Discussion from the board.
No, it's great for the heavy truck repair. Are you also planning on having tow truck services on the?
Step up to the mic. State your name, please.
Yeah, I'm Austin Zilmer with Lane Low Services.
Okay, no, for the facility, are you also planning on having towing services or
No, we're
anything that, you know, to bring the rigs in to?
No, we're not.
No comment. Questions?
Only what I stated before, I satisfied my questions. I don't have anything else.
No, I'm good.
I think,
No, I'm good.
I guess the one I would have is the garage doors. In this area, I don't see the need. It's all industrial. I mean, there's a school there, but there's no way we're gonna require Vermeer to do this. And there's no way they're gonna comply with it. I can't see Pepsi doing it. I can't see Vermeer doing it. So I just can't see requesting them to have to do it. It's not next to a residential subdivision. I guess for me, I just don't see the need. I guess look for input on the plan commission side for that.
I agree wholeheartedly with you because on a day like today, I would think you'd want to have the garage doors open.
Yeah.
And the area, I mean, I've been back there several times. It's not going to impact it. Probably get more noise from the high school than what you're going to provide to them.
Yeah, the bands, you know.
Yes.
Plus that.
So I don't have any problem in deleting that requirement.
Well, that also would help out because if you keep garage door closed, as I said, you'd have to do some things for exhaust and that would add cost too, I would think. So I totally agree.
He'll still be required to do that though.
Exactly, but,
Yeah.
but to a different magnitude is what I'm saying.
I have no problem removing that clause since it is completely surrounded by commercial area.
Remove number 3.
Brian?
They do have makeup air so that in winter, when they close the doors, they won't die of asphyxiation. But I'm with you on not having the garage doors required to be closed.
I'm fine with the doors being open when they need them to.
You read this, you understand everything that's in here, then you're okay with everything as written?
Yep.
Okay, hours of operation, everything, it's all hunky dory, employees.
Yep.
It's number 3 that we would be removing from the conditions and whoever's making the motion.
Do we also have to do and address the tax code typo also as a motion?
It's accurate on the agenda.
Okay.
Make a motion on this.
I'll make a motion for approval of the site plan and plan of operation for Lane Low Services to lease approximately 3,950 square feet of shop space within the Pontiac Trucking Building at W223 North 6219 Richard Road to operate a heavy-duty truck and equipment repair business. Tax key number LSBT 0241999010. Including planner's comments with the deletion of comment number 3 on being able to operate with the doors open.
Are you also approving his site plan of operation for that?
Thought that's what I did.
Yeah, but that wasn't part of your motion.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brian. Any other discussion? No. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
You have a very nice looking building down there. I mean, really, it is. It was down there this week looking at something else, and it really, you did nice down there. And I think Vermeer is gonna look really nice too when it gets done. Yeah.
Item 5, unfinished business. A,
No.
Thank you.
Unless you want to sit around and have more fun like we
Oh,
get. to
man,
do.
I don't know how you guys do it. Have that.
It's for the money.
We do.
discussion only regarding annual reports resulting from quarry inspections. We have Land and Stone Products, which was Jeff. He's not here tonight. So, item then we have Lafarge.
Was me, wasn't it? Okay. Yeah, everything checked out really well. The only reason I have on here is that, I have a note on here that says the mound sand has not been available for approximately a year. Is because that was one of the few places in Waukesha County for quite some time that had mound sand. And mound sand, since we were talking about septic systems, it's a special sand that's used for mound systems. It's a little bit coarser, a little bit finer, it's kind of in between, and it's cleaned differently, but they don't have it anymore. So they're almost to their outer boundary limits. And let's see, what else? And they figure that sand and gravel extraction will end in about 5 to 10 years, and then they're gonna just simply go for land and stone. That's what they're thinking. All their DNR records are up to date. I went in their room, which is probably about as big as a restroom here, but it's floor to ceiling of all DNR records, and they did have the latest one. They're checked about 2 to 4 times a month. And no complaints, and they're not blasting, and I gave them a thumbs up. That was it.
Thought they were blasting you. I looked.
Kane and Dolan, Sherry.
My report's not in here, but I did turn one in.
You can give us a.
Pardon?
Did they do pretty good? How they do?
I was amazed at how clean that place was for an asphalt plant. It was spotless. She drove me around the entire facility and it was spotless.
Amazing how times have changed in a lot of these places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I
and
used
even,
to work in one. No, they weren't.
and even the number of trucks going in and out of there, it didn't create a tremendous amount of dust. Now Becky might be able to speak differently. She lives a little bit closer than I do, but I didn't see it that day. But I'll send another copy of my report because I did send one in.
Looking good. You let us, the commission know, we'll get the report in, but thank you. HellQuest. Looks like we had multiple pits. Joe, Sean?
No, it was only the one, the only ideal.
Oh, you guys went together. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we only,
Sean?
With going with Joe, running around there, no issues with dust, no issues. No issues with the entry and exit, were clear. No issues, also reviewed, no issues with surrounding residences on noise issues. So no, basically they were following protocol on dust, blast and noise and traffic, so no issues. Rated as excellent, no action required.
Yeah, any questions? for
That was
Sean
done
or
on
Joe?
June 15th.
June 15th. Any questions? Thank you, guys. And then Genesee Aggregate.
yes, I would, took tour again with Heidi Johnson, for about 2 hours. They operate a lot of property up there, as we all know, and everything is fine. It's essentially being used right now as, they receive fill. There's very little material going out of there at the present time. Everything is as it should be. The only thing I put on both of these reports, they do have a shop over there on the south side of Plainfield, Plainview, but that's used for mechanics and family storage. I put a comment on here for them to update their restoration plans for all their properties sometime within the next calendar year. Which I talked to them about last year, and they know it. So they're working with staff sometime soon on that. That's all I have. Everything's fine.
All right, good. We'll hit up Jeff on the next meeting then. All right, item 6, planner report.
I just have to report, we've got about 4 items for our next meeting lined up. A couple site plan of operations, a text amendment, and a CU/site plan of operation. So
Okay,
look forward to that next month.
any questions on anyone for that? Thank you. Item 7 is adjournment.
So move.
Moved by Joe, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky, no discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You guys ayes?
Aye.
All the girls opposed? We are out at 9:37.